motivated people come out and say they want to be the next Tata, they want to be the next Ambani. And that is when I feel like a teacher and I want to pull out the red pen and put a big full stop over there. Now, why do I say that? Why would you want to be the next anybody when you can be the first you? As some of you all might know, I was one of the winners of Mrs. India 2022. And when you win a national pageant, you get the opportunity to represent your country internationally. The time between my national pageant and my international pageant was merely 3 weeks. That's all the time I had to prepare. But to tell you the truth, my journey started here in the year 2011 when I first participated in my pageant. The journey started long ago. It started with a spark, and now it was a blazing fire. Being a naval brat, patriotism always ran in my veins, and to get the opportunity to represent my country was a dream come true. And as I stood there on the day of the finale, with India's name across my chest, and my chest pounding in anticipation, I hear, India has won. I became the first Indian to win the title of Mrs. Galaxy in the 20 years since the pageant has started. Ladies and gentlemen, I created history. I did not recreate it. The fire and the passion within me was unquenchable because it started within. At that moment, I was reminded of a book that my husband introduced me to, which had a beautiful title, and it said, "Imitation is limitation." And my friends, that is the gospel truth. I would implore you all, do not find yourself, rather create yourself. Now, the dictionary defines inspiration as a reason or a person or a thing why somebody creates or does something. While that is perfectly true because it is the dictionary's definition, I would like to simplify that a little bit for you all and give you my definition. For me, inspiration is an action, or rather power, of moving one's intellect and one's emotion. Now, as you can see, I come from a pageant background. And one of the most common questions that we are asked in pageants is, who is your inspiration? The answers I've heard are all brilliant and true, right from it being your mother to it being Mother Teresa. And if I had to tell you my list of things I'm inspired by, the list would truly be a long one. But you know what would top that list? It would be me. If I were to answer your simple question of what inspires me, my answer would be, my inspiration is always someone I envision myself to be 5 years down the line. I'm inspired by everyone I meet, and I choose to evolve each day while I learn things from them, and I evolve into a higher version of myself. Emphasis on myself. Just like a butterfly and his journey of metamorphosis from a caterpillar to becoming so beautiful, the change must be internal. Now, we all understand the importance of self-love and self-respect and how important it is for our emotional and mental well-being. Then why do we not understand the importance of being self-inspired? Now, don't confuse being self-inspired with being self-motivated. Unless you are inspired, you will not be motivated. A habit has to be formed or established before it can be improved upon. A habit will be formed when you're inspired. Working on it and improving upon it is where motivation plays an important role. Inspiration is what gets you going. Motivation is what keeps you going. Now, we always tend to look on the outside for inspiration, and that's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to look at the journeys of other people, to look at the examples they have set with their shortcomings, with their success stories. It's wonderful to learn from the example that is already set ahead. They always say, the most dangerous person in the room is the one who listens, thinks, and observes. But when the inspiration strikes from within, it becomes a force to reckon with, and you become unstoppable. We need to begin to look inside and tap on our inner inspiration rather than concentrating on the outside and depending upon it. Now, we have a lot of parents over here, and how many times when we are growing up, or even we as children, I've heard in our growing up years, oh, look at your cousin, she's got such excellent marks in her exam. Or look at the neighbor, and he's doing so well in his taekwondo class. And oh, look at that friend's daughter, and she's excelling when she's doing her piano. Parents, you all are thinking you all are setting an example for your children to inspire them. I support the practice, but not the premise. Because what you're actually doing is comparing your children. And when you begin comparison, it leads to adults that are always seeking validation. We look at other people, and we always want what they have. We are earning for the achievements that they've made, which eventually leads to dissatisfaction and eventually unhappiness. In severe cases, my friends, even depression. So I would like you all to unlearn that and begin to retrospect. Nobody, and I promise you, nobody knows you better than you know yourself. Nobody knows how many stairs you are willing to climb to reach the heights that you want to reach. Another obstacle that we face on this journey of being self-inspired is acceptance from the world. I'm sure everybody has faced it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. I was about 2 years old when I told my mother I wanted to be a pilot. Yes, I was that young when I found my calling. And parents generally think as toddlers we are constantly changing our mind. One day we want to be an astronaut, one day we want to be a firefighter, and one day probably we want to be Batman. But I stuck to my guns, and I decided this is what I'm going to pursue. While I got immense support from my family, I at the same time was surrounded by well-wishers who told me what an utterly stupid decision I was making. They told me a woman pilot, like a woman driver, will not be trusted. The most hilarious one, you're so thin, how will you fly such a big jet? Another one was, the working hours of a pilot are quite chaotic, and which person would want to marry you? I could go on with the list, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. It was constantly hearing opinions of people who did not know what I am capable of. Well, ladies and gentlemen, not only did I pay no heed to them, I let my inner inspiration take the wheel of the driving force of my life, and I became one of the youngest female pilots in the world in the year 2011, and completed my entire training course only in a matter of 9 months. Now that I told you the once upon a time and the happily ever after, I'm going to rewind a little bit and go to the climax of the story. I did tell you that I wanted to be a pilot at the age of 2. What I didn't tell you was I wanted to be a fighter pilot that flew MiGs. Did I mope about it when I didn't get to be that? Because I had an I number and the defense didn't, accept pilots with an I number. I didn't. I was disheartened. I will not lie about that. But I didn't get knocked down. And why is that? That is because my inspiration was within me, and that told me that the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning. The secret to success is not some far-off hidden mystery that we need to uncover. The secret of success is in the depths of our being. All we need to do is open our heart and accept it. Now, the problem with living for approval is you can lose who you really are. You become so busy with being what others want you to be, and that is when life gets confusing. It's a lot of pressure to live by, trying to get people on board to do what your heart is telling you to do. I always tell people, listen to the calm, silent voice of your inner instinct and go and do what you want to do. Your friends and family might not give you the support when you're on a higher journey. Because when you're following your inner inspiration, you're going to go to places that you've never been. And not everybody can understand where you're going. They will want you to keep you in the same tiny box that you've always been. They will tell you things like you've changed, you're not who you used to be. And it is tempting at that time to let their doubt, to let their disapproval get you stuck. Every time a person tells you you're not who you used to be, you've changed, tell them you're right. I'm growing. I'm stepping up to new levels. It's not a bad thing to change. And if you're going to wait for the approval of everybody to come on board, you're going to be stuck and you will not be able to move forward in life. Don't be timid about being self-inspired. I'm pretty sure most of the people over here remember this acceptance speech of Snoop Dogg from an award ceremony. What did he say? Last but not the least, I would like to thank myself. It's not behaving like a megalomaniac to see and accept how far you've come in this journey of self-inspiration. I'm sure you know that people just love to take credit for your achievements. They will tell that, oh, this has happened because of me, this is what I said. I always tell you that the truth will set you free. It might anger a few people at first, but I promise you, if you speak the truth about being your own inspiration, it'll show the world that you don't need to lean on the outside. You don't need to depend on others to do well in life. You have to accept the self-carved out path that you've made for yourself. You need to celebrate it. I have seen so many times that people are more afraid of the light that they have within than the darkness. We have been taught so often in our growing up years, oh, we must be grounded, we must be timid. It is okay to be timid, grounded, and kind, but it is also important to celebrate everything that you're capable of. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with this. I'm Captain Chahat Dalal, a pilot, an entrepreneur, a musician, a dancer, a DJ, a MC, an influencer, and the first Indian to win the title of Mrs. Galaxy. And I'm just getting started. When your mind will rebel at stagnation, that is when you will remain truly and eternally inspired. Thank you.